Okay, in this video, I'm going to demonstrate decision statements, starting with a simple if statement, then we'll look at an if else, then we'll look at an if else if statement. So here I just have a simple program that declares an integer variable age. It asks the user to enter the age, it reads it in, and then it displays it out. So I'll just run it, show you what it looks like, and there we go. I'm going to make my display a little bit bigger for the video. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with a simple if statement. This is where you make a decision um, based on if some Boolean expression is true, it will execute a statement, otherwise it will bypass it. So I'm going to start with an if statement. The Boolean expression needs to be enclosed in parentheses. So I'm going to put if age is greater than or equal to 21, then I'm going to see out adult. This is a simple if statement. It will evaluate this expression. If whatever age they entered in was greater than or equal to 21, it'll display this. Otherwise, it'll bypass that statement and just continue on. So I'll run this. Okay. So I'll put 22 and it'll output adult. And I'll run it again and I'll put 5 and it doesn't output anything. Okay? So if this is true, it executes a statement. So this, again, is a Boolean expression. It has to be something that evaluates to either true or false. You can see it has a relational operator, greater than or equal to, in there. So that makes it evaluate to true or false. And let's see. Okay, so you can always have a simple if statement. If you want to have, if this expression is true, do something, otherwise do something else, that's what you use an if-else statement for. So here I'm going to add an else, and I'll just put not an adult. Okay. So if this is true, it'll display adult. Otherwise, it'll go into the else statement, and it'll say not an adult. So I'm going to run this. And again, I'll put in 22, and it says adult. And then I'll put in 5, and it'll say not an adult. So you can have a simple if statement with one choice. You can have two choices with an if-else if statement. Now, you'll notice here that there's only one statement in the body of this if, and there's one statement in the body of this else. So this works as is, but if you wanted to have two statements, like for instance, you wanted to say, see out, you are an, okay, like, so it'll display you are an adult, and else it'll see out, you are, and then it'll just put not an adult. So anytime you have more than one statement here in your if or in your else, you need to surround those statements with curly braces. That denotes a block of code. So if this is true, it'll execute both of these statements inside the curly brace. Okay. If you leave these off and you have two statements in here, it's not going to work. So you have to be very careful. If it makes you feel better, you can always put curly braces in, and even when you only have one statement, because that will always work. So let's see what it looks like now. Right? You are an adult. Just move that down a little. You are not an adult. Okay? Now, what if you have more than two choices? Then you can use something that's called an if-else if statement. So I'll put age greater than or equal to 21, you are an adult. Else if age greater than or equal to 18, oops, I guess when you're 18 you're an adult, but I have kids that age, so I'm going to say you're almost an adult. All right, so if you're greater than or equal to 21, it'll go into here. Else if, two separate reserved words, they require in parentheses a Boolean expression after them. This Boolean expression can also sometimes be called a condition. Okay, then it'll execute this, else it'll go into here. So now we have more cases. So we can say 22, you're an adult. I'm going to run it again. I'll say 19, you're almost an adult, and then I'll run it again with 5. You are not an adult. And you can have as many of these if-else-if statements as you want. I'll put else if age is greater than or equal to 13. See out, you are a teenager. So you can have as many if-else statements as you want to, or else-if statements, sorry. Well, we know what it looks like, 22, 19, I'll put 18. Let's do a teenager, 13, and 5. Okay, and it's a good example that I'm showing you here. When you write code with if-else-if statements and you test that code, you should have a test value that goes into each and every one of these, right? I did 22, 18, 13, and then else, okay? The else statement is actually optional, so you don't have to have an else statement if you don't want to. And please notice that else is on a line all by itself. Don't put anything after it, right? Don't put a Boolean expression, don't put parentheses, just else, okay? So I could, if I wanted to, instead here, I could say else if age is greater than or equal to 0, you are not an adult. So see, I don't have an else statement anymore, all right? And like I said, it's optional. You can have it if you want. And so, again, I'll run through all my tests. Okay. Now, if I wanted to add an else here, maybe I could do something like this. Else, cout, invalid age. Now, again, I only have one statement here. I don't need the curly braces, but if I wanted to, it does not hurt to put them in. When you're first starting out, maybe it's better to put them in than leave them out so you don't have a problem. So again, one last time, I'll run through all of my cases now. 22, 18, try different 14. Let's put some different values that are still going to execute that part of the if statement. 10, and how about if I run it with -5? Okay, so there is simple decision statements, an if else, and then an if-else-if statement.